Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 548. We've got a great guest with us. We've got Brian Messenlehner. I'm probably destroyed his surname, but you know me, listeners and viewers. Yes, sorry, Brian, but I had to go at it. And he's the co-founder and president of AppPresser, a really fascinating plugin, and just a great member of the WordPress community and evangelist. So, Brian, can you give the listeners and viewers a quick 30-second intro about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Brian Messenlehner. Brian Messenlehner. It's a little bit. It's a long one. You did pretty good though. Better than most people.
I tell you, and Stephen will confirm this. That was a great attempt by me, wasn't it, Stephen? I've done
better
a lot
than
worse.
The usual. Better than the usual.
Thank you. You should be impressed, Brian. Right.
Cool. So I've been in the software game ever since 2001. So almost 20 years now. I started off as a computer programmer for the United States Marine Corps. That's where I learned how to first program. The first scripting language I learned was Cold Fusion. If you guys remember that.
Yeah, I used it.
Queries and stuff, and so I did a lot of custom database systems, Oracle, SQL Server. When the .NET framework came out, I jumped ship on classic ASP and went over to .NET, ASP.NET. C# was my favorite languages. So when I got out of the military, I started looking at open source PHP-based projects, and WordPress was something that was very popular at the time. I was doing a lot of like Drupal stuff, Magento stuff, some Joomla stuff, but WordPress really stood out. I like the community a lot. They seem to be very involved. We were building a lot of cool plugins that did a lot of cool stuff and tying into other systems. So I think around in 2013, we had a project building a mobile app for the YMCA's in New York City, and we specialized in building WordPress plugins, right? But we didn't want to tell the YMCA's to go away, and we had built this whole badging system for gamification. And Jonathan, you might be interested in this if you like BuddyPress. It ties into BuddyPress, so you could award your community members with all these different achievements and stuff. So anyway. So the YMCA's wanted to take advantage of this plugin that we built, but we were in this dilemma that we didn't build iOS apps, right? So instead of telling the YMCA's to go away, we decided to build one, and it was all basically just a wrapper for a custom WordPress theme that was built to look and function like a mobile app. In fact, the only native part of this app was the when it turned on the camera, to scan the barcode on the back of somebody's Y membership ID to log them into the system, so they could take all these different challenges and earn these badges and earn points that equate to, membership discounts or water bottles or whatever. So this app that we built for the YMCA's was a success. We had another project after that for the Dallas Museum of Art, which is essentially the same type of thing, building a mobile app where people could walk up and work with the exhibit, like interact with the exhibit right in front of the exhibit through this iPad-based kiosk. So after that, we were at a WordCamp in San Francisco, and Matt Mullenweg, I forget what year this was, he came out and he actually showed during the State of the Word our video of the YMCA's promoting this app that we built, and talked about how there's going to be headless, WordPress sites coming that, using WordPress data through the API to control client-side apps and voice apps and all sorts of stuff. So right at that same time, we thought it would be a great idea to basically launch AppPresser, which was the world's first WordPress-based plugins for building an iOS and Android app. So essentially, you don't need to know how to build an iOS and Android app. All you have to do is flex your WordPress skills, and boom, you got a mobile app that could be on the
oh, well, that's fantastic. So I'm going to let Stephen quickly introduce himself. Stephen, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
No, you're good. No, my name's Stephen Satter. You know me. I've been on the show for a little while. you can head over to zipfish.io, check out what I'm doing. We make WordPress sites faster by optimizing not only the server stuff, but actually the code that runs the website. So your themes and your plugins.
That's great. And I'm just going to quickly tell you about one of our great sponsors, and that's Kinster Hosting. Kinster Hosting is only a WordPress hosting provider. Basically, if you've got looking for a great hosting provider for your own website, if you're using WooCommerce, if you're using Lifter LMS or LearnDash, you really need really powerful hosting, and that's what you get with Kinster. Also, they're just fantastic people to work with. They provide all the technology, all the bells and whistles, great interface, great support. That should be of interest for yourself and for your clients. So go over to Kinster, have a look at what they've got to offer. I suggest that you buy one of their packages for yourself or for your clients. But the main thing is tell them that you heard about them on the WP-Tonic show. So, Brian, thanks for that extensive introduction. You know, you've got an enormous amount of experience in WordPress. So, with AppPresser, how long is it now the company been running? And is there anything in the next 6 months to a year that that excites you around any improvements to the app in general, or the platform? Sure. Really, isn't it? It's a platform, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's evolved over time since 2013 when we launched the first version of it. We're on AppPresser 4 now, so it's pretty cool. We just introduced a way to build custom app pages using a block editor. So AppPresser, we always got to the point to where you need to know a little bit, unless you're using our custom templates that we have already, pre-built, or you're tying into your app, to your WordPress site specifically and using our app theme, our Ionic theme. There wasn't too much customization that you could do without actually knowing some Ionic code and be able to mark up some Ionic. So now we have this block editor essentially to where you could put together your app pages just by drag and drop and really customizing some settings, which is pretty cool. So it works kind of two ways, where you could either point in the app builder, you could point it to AppPresser or to your WordPress website that uses the app theme, and it'll just run whatever WordPress page that you have, but it'll run it inside the app and it'll look like it's the app. Now that's a little bit slower, right, than using the WordPress API and pulling the data directly from the API into the app, which is our preferred method, utilizing the WordPress API to build your pages.
All right, that's great. Over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, so I've AppPresser has been something in the back of my head for as long as I have ever been developing WordPress, because clients are always like, oh, I want an app. And I've never had the opportunity where it's worked to actually use it. But the idea behind it, right, that you can take a website and make it an app is just brilliant, right? It doesn't take a huge amount of development to get your content from a website into an app. When it comes to migrating that data, or I guess it's not migrating, but you would just install a plugin on your site. Is that how it works? I install the AppPresser plugin and then I can customize that, or is it another WordPress install?
So there's a series of WordPress plugins and a WordPress theme. The theme gets installed in the theme directory, but you don't activate it. It just sits there. And when the website receives a request from the mobile app itself, it serves up this special AppPresser theme, and it's linked to your AppPresser account in the app builder. So when you're using the AppPresser app builder and you're choosing maybe the colors for your app and the logo on the top or whatever, the menu, have a menu set up, all that is going to be pulled over to your theme, to your AppPresser theme. So when the app serves up a page that's from your website using the AppPresser theme, it knows which colors to use, which styles to use, and everything, because that's already defined in the app. So it's essentially pulling in any WordPress page into the app and made to look like it's part of the app. So
so you kind of have these two themes on your site. The one theme that is doing what normal themes do, and this kind of theme that's sitting behind the curtain waiting for requests coming in from the app to be able to
Exactly.
generate and serve that content.
Exactly. So you could build your app that way, where you're basically pointing, setting up like pages on your app that point to any WordPress site URL that has the AppPresser theme on it. Now there's also the base AppPresser theme, AppPresser plugin, which you need to install and basically map it to your like AppPresser ID and everything on apppresser.com. And then there's also third-party specialty plugins. Like if you're using like BuddyPress, you could install our App Community plugin, and basically it'll allow you to build a social network mobile app, all running from BuddyPress and from the BuddyPress API. So you have like all the functionality that you would in any BuddyPress social network, the messaging, groups, memberships, profiles, all that baked, directly into the app. There's also a WooCommerce plugin for AppPresser that you could install, and then anything that you have in your store, your e-commerce store, boom, is available for you in the mobile app. Same thing with LearnDash. We have a specialty LearnDash plugin, so you could set up, all your courses and have that set up, on your WordPress site, and it all ties in seamlessly already into the plugin that we have using the WooCommerce API. So it's much faster than just like loading those pages. What I talked about in the beginning, like just pointing to a WordPress page and loading it like that. It'll work, right? But it's going to be slower because WordPress has to do its thing and load everything like that. When we're using the API with some of these specialty plugins, we're pulling the data right from WordPress, right from the API, and populating it into the mobile app. And then the same thing with pushing data back to the web server.
Got it. Interesting. So you have your AppPresser account, you have your theme, and then you have these AppPresser plugins that kind of glue those things together a little bit.
Exactly.
Is that the kind of the correct way to think about it?
Yep. Like for example, we have a push notifications plugin. So when you install that plugin, it gives you a little meta box with a checkbox on it when you're publishing a post, so that you could send out a push notification to everybody that has the app about a new blog post. So Jonathan, if you were using AppPresser for a mobile app for your podcast, as soon as you publish the post about it on your website, it could go out with a deep link to everybody that has the app installed. They get the push notification, click on it, it opens up right to that page and starts playing this video of us.
I would imagine the WooCommerce integration is extremely popular. Would I be right about that, Brian?
Yeah, a lot of people are using it. Pretty much a lot of people that have shops or existing shops in WooCommerce and want to be able to offer that, basically have more doors to their content, making their app available in the app stores.
Because I think a lot of people that are building something themselves or getting somebody to build them in the WordPress ecosystem, I think they have quite major ticket shock when they actually go in the world of app development for Mac or Android, iOS, or they get real ticket shock, and then they come across your solution, and it's at a much more reasonable price, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're kind of the extreme undercutters when it comes to building mobile apps, and really because we're taking advantage of open source software, WordPress, to be able to cost effectively build these apps. There's also another part of our business at AppPresser. So we have this SaaS-based platform for building mobile apps. You could sign up, subscription based. You have access to our app builder, which now has the app page builder attached to it, and you could build your apps that way. But then we also have another side of the business that is all custom mobile app development. And in a lot of cases, we bypass AppPresser altogether. We still build the apps with the same technology stack that we built AppPresser on, but these are more very tailored custom mobile apps for clients that have very custom UX built for an idea for an app, or a very custom workflow, where we would just essentially build an app just for them. So we've been doing a lot of like custom app development, utilizing the WordPress API, and in some instances connecting to other APIs of other systems that aren't WordPress, but bringing them all together within the app. Taking advantage of these open source platforms like WordPress really saves money, even with very custom tailored app development. A lot of the projects that we build, and we start off on some of these more high-end apps around like 20 grand and up. But a lot of these same apps that we're building for around that price tag, if somebody were to go and get a quote on an iOS app that does this same functionality that we're building or whatever, they'd probably be looking at like at least like 100 grand for that app, and that's just for the iOS app. Then they gotta go hire an Android development team to build the same thing. And what we're essentially doing with a lot of these custom projects too is we're building a PWA, or progressive web app, that is the same code base from the iOS and the Android app. So really, we're even getting these projects down to one code base to run the iOS app, the Android app, and the website. And we're using WordPress, the backend, so all the tools that everybody that is familiar with and loves and can use with ease to basically manage all the content in the website, the app, and or the mobile app for iOS and the mobile app for Android with one code base. So that saves a lot of time and money when it comes to like support and maintenance of maintaining a mobile app, and then also maintaining a separate WordPress theme. And if you're using something like BuddyPress, then you know that custom BuddyPress theme development could be a daunting task sometimes, unless you're using some of these pre-built systems like BuddyBoss or whatever. So a lot of work is going to go into, and especially if you have something custom, some custom functionality, you're going to build some custom plugin that piggybacks off of BuddyPress and is built into the theme somehow. That's going to be double the work of then having to duplicate that same functionality in the mobile app. So in some cases of these custom apps that we're building now, we're doing PWA and one source code for the website, the mobile app for iOS and Android, which is
that's
which
great.
I think cool.
So I just want, we need to go for our break, and then Steve can ask his question. We're going to go for our break, folks. I think it's been a fascinating discussion already. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. We're coming back. It's been a great discussion with Brian. So Stephen, off you go.
Yeah, I just want to explore this progressive web app, or PWA, a little bit more, because that's like a really interesting thing that's coming up on the horizon, right? It's like, for the listeners that don't know out there, a progressive web app is kind of like a hybrid that sits between a website and an app. It allows you to have like some local storage on a device and take advantage of some of the features that a mobile device has, but you're not actually building an app, and the app doesn't have to necessarily exist in the app store. Somebody can go to a website and install the app directly onto the phone. And it's kind of a new thing that's been rolling out. Where do you see that going? And like, do you think that's going to take over the app world and we're going to just see everybody moving to progressive web apps? Or is that something that there's still a lot of features that you can't get out of the progressive web app? So, it's a painful process.
Question. I mean, I definitely, we take advantage of progressive web apps at AppPresser for our clients' advantage, right? So, because in the long run, we're building one thing instead of building two things. Instead of building a WordPress website, traditional, theme, and building that out how they want. When, by the way, most of their traffic is probably, mobile phone based anyway. It all depends on really the circumstances of what the client's needs are. Some clients really need a nice WordPress theme. Maybe they still want to use, for whatever their app is, maybe they still want to use a PWA for their app, and we'll just make their website or the URL for the app like app dot whatever their domain is as a subdomain, and the live, the real domain will be just a marketing site, a traditional WordPress theme that markets the app for a bit, that they could just link directly to it, app dot, and that would be, essentially the same app that somebody would go download it from the iOS or Android app stores. But as far as your question about PWAs, you probably see that they're going to get a lot popular, and probably a lot of development companies that that are building traditional themes and stuff may, start to build more PWAs, especially if they get into building mobile apps and stuff. It all depends on what device you're using, what kind of devices that your users are using.
Do you find that it's easier to create a progressive web app than an actual iOS app? Like as far as like budget number wise, like if somebody's like, all right, I want to create an app, is a progressive web app's like magnitudes the time easier than what using like AppPresser to actually build like a native app inside of the App Store?
No, it's basically the same process, and we're creating a WordPress theme that just basically uses invokes the PWA instead of the traditional WordPress theme. So there's not a lot of extra work that goes into it, and there is a lot of extra work that goes into releasing an app in the app stores, though, especially like with Apple. Even though lately they've been pretty good, we've seen apps that we've submitted to the App Store that have been approved within 3 days, which I've seen apps that wouldn't get approved for 3 months on the app stores, with a lot of back and forth, and they're very obscure about what it is that they want you to fix, because they don't want any type of legal issues with it. They just kind of push you to where, okay, well, go look at this clause in this documentation, but they won't tell you exactly what it is. So it's kind of like a guessing game. The exact opposite on Google Play. I mean, you push up an app to Google Play and it's in the store within less than 12 hours. They'll only usually pull it if somebody reports it or there's some kind of issue with it, but they pretty much approve everything. So going back to what you're saying, like you could make a PWA that you could install as a shortcut on somebody's phone, and they really wouldn't know the difference between that and an app that they download, in the App Store. It's essentially the same thing, the same code base, just the way that it interacts with native features is a little bit different. Where if we have an iOS app, we could interact with those device features directly via the app, right? Where if we're doing it through the browser, we have to rely on that browser's capabilities, which now the browsers have a lot of capabilities like camera and location and stuff baked right into it that you could access and use the same way that you would from a native mobile app, running the same code essentially.
Now, if we're going to like take a website and build it into an app, would I have to go and sign up for an app, like an Apple developer account and a Google Play developer account, or does AppPresser take care of that? Or is that something that like each person has to own their own?
Yeah, so each client, each customer owns their own app. So they go set up the developer account on both app stores, and then with Apple, you have to pay the extra whatever it is, $200 a year or something, and or if you're a nonprofit, you can get that waived, and you have to go through their whole enrollment process where you need a DUNS number and all your social security number, all your kids' social security numbers, and crazy stuff.
It's a rigorous process, especially if it's your first time like going through it.
Yeah, so, but one of the great benefits of working with you is that you also give a lot of advice, don't you, and support around that whole process. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, and we have a service where we'll actually set it all up for you, to where if you want to be completely hands off and this is cool, I could build my app, but now you have to go deal with Apple and submitting the app to them, and that's where as far as AppPresser being easy to use, it's very easy to use for setting up your app. You could use our app builder and set up an app based off of your website in like 15-20 minutes, and you're like, wow, I have an app that is ready to go. But then you're stuck with following the process with Apple and Google and making sure all your certs are set up correctly and all that. So we've tried to streamline that as much as possible. We actually have a process now built into AppPresser where it'll submit your builds for you automatically. So when you build it and you're done and you save it on the app builder, and you push it up, it's going to compile everything and push it up to both stores for you automatically, which is a time saver.
That's great. That's great. One thing, if I was, I have had discussions with native app developers on Android and on the Mac platform, no OS, and they would say they would say, well, AppPresser, great idea, but the problem is, Jonathan, it slows everything down because it's bound to, because it's middleware, and it's interpreting, and then there's going to be they would argue there's bound to be some speed effect, but they would say drastic. How do you respond to that, Brian?
So I guess it depends on where you're, just like your website, right? It depends on where you're hosting your website. If you have, if you're on Kingsta and you have, optimized site, then your app is probably going to do pretty good. If you have like a, and I'm not, trying to dog any hosting companies, but if you have like a basic GoDaddy account or a BabyGator account or something, and your website's slow, then obviously your app is going to be slow. And that it also depends on how you have your app set up, right? Because there's two ways. There's to point your app pages to your website and load them with the app theme, which is going to take more time than if you were to have the more tailored API driven app pages, pulling the data directly from the API. So that would also come into play. But really, I would say it comes down to hosting. But you are right. AppPresser does create this kind of middle go-between. Even though we're pulling, it's but that's really to set up to build the app. Once the app is compiled and everything, it's going to just load your website data directly. So we're not really pulling anything from the compiled app from AppPresser. AppPresser is just used to build your app and to compile it for you and push it up to the app stores for you. That being said, though, when we do have clients, more high-end clients, a lot of people that use AppPresser out of the box, $600 a year, that's nothing for an app that they could use to tie into their data for what they want. Some people think it's too expensive, but really it really does save a lot of time and money doing it that way. But in some cases where we have enterprise level clients, or just clients that want something very tailored and want something custom, like I mentioned before, AppPresser will bypass using our platform altogether and just build a custom tailored app specific to the client's requirements. And then we're in most cases using the WordPress API directly, or maybe we're integrating with some other API from another system or something like that to build these really cool.
I'm gonna let Stephen have the last question before we wrap up the podcast part of the show. Over to you, Stephen.
What do you see that's like in the app world right now? Do you feel like more and more people are trying to move to building apps? Like just like I feel like there was a point in time where everyone was like, I have a website, I need an app. Or are people more pushing into like a very highly customized sort of like, I only need an app if I have like a social networking type site, or if I have like the social engagement component, like utilizing BuddyPress? Like, are you seeing people just doing more general apps or very more specialized stuff right now?
A little bit of both. And I would say a lot of our customers are WordPress development agencies that push AppPresser to their clients because it's the easy upsell. Like as soon as they're done building a website, oh, hey, now you need an app. What better way to get your content in front of everybody's eyeballs with push notifications? That's that's key right there. So there is a lot of people, developers, and people that are building cool WordPress websites and custom functionality that use AppPresser at that capacity. Then there's people that want businesses that have their own website, and somebody got the word down from higher up, like, hey, great job on the website, guys. Now we need an iOS app and an Android app, and that's when people find us too. But then sometimes they have quite valid questions like what you're just asking about, speed and scalability and stuff like that. And that's when we kind of, depending on the client's needs, we may think, okay, putting them on AppPresser is fine. They'll do great there. But then after some consulting, we'll decide like, hey, let's do more of a custom app for them. I'm
That's,
sorry. I
no,
might have drifted away from the question a little bit. You could tell I can go on with this stuff about this stuff for hours and
no,
hours.
that's great. It's a great answer.
Well,
Everybody that's involved with in my life, hates me because I'll just keep on talking.
That is fine, Brian. That's your expertise is much appreciated. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Brian's agreed to stay on. He's a busy guy and he's got personal commitments as well, but he's agreed to stay on for our bonus content. And you can watch the whole video, the whole interview, and the bonus content on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. We're having a lot of new people subscribe to the channel. Please go there. So like I say, you'll be able to watch the whole interview plus the bonus content on our YouTube channel. So Brian, what's the best way for people to find out more about AppPresser, and especially anything you're up to personally?
Sure. It's apppresser.com, or my personal email is Brian, Brian, at apppresser.com. 2 P's. That's the best way to get a contact of me, or just through social media, Facebook, Twitter, BMS.
And what's the kind of training, the free training resources like on AppPresser? Because do you have a lot of training videos and just information resources?
Yeah, we have a docs.apppresser. You can go to look at all of our documentation about all of our, the framework itself, the builder, the plugins, all of that. Yeah.
Oh, so it's extensive. Fantastic.
We have a YouTube channel that has all our videos and stuff, and then we have a support team. So active subscribers get access to our support and support email-based support tickets, and our guys will jump in there and help them out with whatever they need for their app.
That's great. So Stephen, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you're up to?
Head over to zipfish.io and run a speed test and see how much faster we can make your website.
That's great. Like I say, we'll be back. Oh, before I go, I want to say that we're going to be doing another webinar in December on the second Friday. So that will be December Friday the 11th at 10:30 Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be me and Spencer again. We're going to be delving even more deeper into marketing automation and building effective landing pages, funnels, the whole works, utilizing totally WordPress. So it's going to be a fantastic webinar. Go over to the WP-Tonic website. You'll see in the top navigation a button that says webinar. Click it, sign up, and it's just going to be a great resource for you, and also when you're talking to clients or you're interested in doing something around marketing automation, but you want to use WordPress. We'll be back next week with another great guest like Brian. We'll see you soon. Bye. So on to bonus content. So, like BuddyPress, they just introduced a new service which they're launching in January, but they're offering a discount at the present moment. So obviously, I would imagine you know about that. Was you surprised that they went down that road, or was you surprised that they didn't kind of come to you and try and do a deal? Or maybe they did. Or what's your general thoughts about it?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Hey, well, can I quick ask what is the new thing for BuddyPress? I'm not aware of it yet.
Oh, I think he's talking about Buddy Boss.
Oh, Buddy Boss. Sorry, I had a brain fart. Apologize.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, so Buddy Boss, they have their new like this app that's built from BuddyPress. So it's kind of like it's like we're a little different in the sense where you're building your app based off of the data that you need from your WordPress site or whatever, and they're essentially like a BuddyPress specific app that you could use to tailor, like change the colors out, swap it out. So you're not really building something that's your own. You're using like a shell of a social network mobile app that's powered by their fork of BuddyPress, essentially.
And they're hosting it, aren't they? I think they host the whole thing on their servers. That was the impression I got. Am I correct about that?
Yep. So it looks like you sign up. They host everything for you. You have this app. They set up everything for you. You're kind of hands off, and you're using their Buddy Boss version of BuddyPress to serve all the data on that app.
Right.
And their Buddy Boss theme for the front end of the WordPress. Anybody hitting the website directly.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. So it has its interest, but it's much more limited than what your AppPresser offers. Basically, it's going to be a lot more limited, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, it's very interesting what they're doing. And it's a good idea, and it makes me think like we have all these specialty apps that we've built that we could easily do something like that too, where we're just swap, like we built some pretty cool tailored like e-commerce WooCommerce based apps that we could basically clone that and serve it from anybody's WooCommerce data, not just a particular one. Swap out.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I would imagine there'd be a lot of people interested in that. Over to you, Stephen.
How, like, if one of our users is thinking about building an app, or if they should just keep a website, like, how would you think through that decision? Like, should I build an app for my customers? How do I know when the right time is? When should I just keep it a website versus say, nope, it's time for me to launch an app?
I guess it all depends on what their use case is, but I would definitely look at the traffic and see where traffic is coming from. Is it all desktop type stuff, or is it coming from phones and tablets? And if it's coming from phone, if 90% of their traffic is coming from phones, it might be a good idea to get an app. Now you could still do both. You could still have your WordPress theme, and it could be a responsive theme. So on mobile, it looks like how you want it to look on browsers, and it could be a different, completely different on the app. You could also tailor it to where you're using the AppPresser theme as your responsive mobile theme for the website. So you could actually probably use the app theme and not even use AppPresser, just to have like a nice responsive app looking type of website. But as far as your question goes on making the transition from website to app, it really all depends on what the use case is. But AppPresser makes it super easy to do that, and it ties off of your existing data. So instead of spending all this time, money trying to pull data from here and pull data from there, because we're using WordPress as the backend, is why we're able to to save so much time and money and make these tools that people could easily just put together a page that pulls from this post type or from that post type, and kind of tie it all together, and then compile their app and push it out to the stores.
I think you've made a fantastic point there, Brian, because what I see your service and all these, the responsive website, your service, building a totally native app for OS or for Android. I just really think they're just ways of people to test the waters to see if they're going to get a real benefit from offering a more immersive app-like service. Is it worth a really large investment? And these, especially what you're offering, and enables you to try it out and see if there is a demand for that app. Does it improve profitability? Because a lot of people, they're just making it at best just educated guess, and it's a very large investment if you're going to go totally native, aren't you?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, depending on what you want to do, the kind of app that you want to build, it could be a very large investment. We see a lot of companies too that'll use AppPresser to build prototypes, and then Some have either hired us or basically taken it to other native app development companies and basically have them built the same thing native. These are larger companies that have that money and those budgets to spend on real native app development, which costs a lot of money. So people thinking about dabbling in and getting an app, and I would say the biggest benefit to the app is definitely the push notifications and being able to trigger those push notifications from however you want, whether you want to just go into the back end of WordPress and send a message to everybody, or you want to have them tied into certain triggers and hooks within WordPress, so they're being fired off when somebody publishes a new post or somebody in a BuddyPress group makes an activity post. Everybody that is subscribed to that group would get a push notification. That type of in your face type of solicitation is what really everybody is looking for. Emails get buried, all that stuff gets buried, but if you have a push notification, boom, most people are gonna check it out. For example, like you should possibly think about using AppPresser to set up a mobile app for your podcast show. It could have all your videos pulled in automatically through via YouTube and organized, so we're essentially we don't have to pull that stuff from WordPress. Although you could pull, but we could pull it directly from YouTube. We could have all the people logging in. If they log into your website, they could log in through the app, the same login, have the same content available. But the biggest benefit to you is when you go live with a new recording, boom, it's sending a push notification out to everybody, and they're clicking on it, and then boom, they're looking at your video. They don't have to go seek it out anywhere. It's coming to them.
Well, yeah. Have you had many podcasts? You just sold it to me. Sounds fantastic. I'll put it on my list of things to be done. It does sound very interesting. Go on.
Yes, too, where we're able to store the audio videos or audio clips or video clips down locally. So if somebody's in airplane mode, they could still, or offline, they could still, listen to all your content.
What a prospect, listeners and viewers. You just wouldn't be able to get away from me. Over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, the whole push notification is something that is the big power behind having an app. Is you get a lot more sticky sort of interaction with your end customer, and that's everybody's goal in the end. And so I love how you were kind of comparing the mobile app versus an optimized mobile experience for web. Like, you can make your site look good, but you lose some of that stickiness that an app provides, which is something that I think is really important. And also, like, we've kind of talked around this or about it a little bit, but I think if any of our listeners are out there thinking, like, should I build an app or should I not? Like, using something like AppPresser will help you answer that question. Like, for what is it, like $79 a month or $600 or $700 a year? Like, you can go build that app, launch that app, see what people's engagements are, and do that fairly easily, quickly, really test that market. And then if you want to build it farther, like, it's super cool that you guys have a way that people can build something more complex by engaging your like more customized services. Like, there's a place to go, there's a place to scale it, and there's a place to keep building on top of it, instead of throwing down $100,000 for an app that nobody actually wants. Like, this is a great way that you can quickly test out those things, which I think is a huge hole in the market and something that you guys are plugging really well.
Thanks.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's just wrap up this bonus content. Is there anything on the AppPresser landscape that you want to announce that's coming up, or any other kind of secondary service that you want to do that you want to highlight before we totally wrap up the show, Brian?
Not too prematurely, but we are working on some cool custom stuff that basically we've been trying to use over and over again for a lot of the custom client stuff that we do. because they all want the same type of features, but it just, you know, it looks a little different. The data, they want to show a little bit more data. They want to show their custom data, but it all kind of behind the scenes works and is stored the same way in most cases with WordPress custom post types and taxonomies and stuff, and WordPress users and user meta and some of these plugins. So we've been building very specialized components that will be able to more or less plug and play with a lot of custom apps that we've been working on. So, and the idea behind that is to basically instead of building out, you know, a whole app project, say we have 6 months to build an app project and we have a certain budget, we want to try to recycle and eat our own dog food as much as we can on these custom app development projects, which is going to help us make better profit margins at the same time reducing the overall cost and timeline for these custom app projects.
That sounds fascinating. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on the show. I think we've given some insight into the world of apps, making apps in the WordPress environment. I think we've really covered a lot of territory. And thank you for spending 45 minutes with us. It's much appreciated, Brian.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
We'll be back next week with another great guest like Brian. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.